What if I told you that the most loyal financial ally the United States has ever had is quietly pulling away? Not an enemy, not China, not Russia, but Japan, the single largest foreign holder of US debt, is suddenly selling US bonds at a pace no one thought possible. And the most shocking part, this might not be just a financial move, it could be a warning to the world about something very, very big that's coming. In this video, you and I are going to uncover why Japan is dumping US Treasuries, what it signals about the future of the dollar, and how this moment may be the beginning of a global shift that will catch millions of people completely off guard. So stay with me, because once the pieces of this puzzle come together, what you'll see might change how you look at the world economy forever. Let's start where this relationship began. After World War II, Japan's economy was in ruins. The United States stepped in investment, trade partnerships, security guarantees. In exchange, Japan became one of America's most important economic partners. Over the next decades, something incredible happened. Japan grew into the second largest economy in the world. It became a manufacturing powerhouse, and most importantly, Japan began buying enormous amounts of US Treasuries. Why? Because US bonds were seen as the safest place on earth to store national wealth. And this purchasing had a purpose. Japan bought US debt so America could afford to buy Japan's exports. That was the unspoken pact. For decades, this was the engine of global trade. Money flowed from Japan, gives to the US Treasury, gives back to Japan through imports. A perfect circle. A system that benefited both countries. But here's the twist no one saw coming. This system only works if both sides keep believing in each other. The financial earthquake didn't start this year. It started quietly. Over a decade ago, the United States began taking on record levels of debt. War spending, financial crisis, bailouts, infrastructure, social programs. The US wasn't just borrowing. It was borrowing to pay interest on borrowing. Meanwhile, Japan was fighting its own battle. Aging population, declining birth rates, slowing domestic growth, rising welfare and pension costs. Japan needed money back home, but most of its money was tied up overseas. In US government IOUs, the tension begins. Japan could either, 1. keep supporting the US system, or 2. start preparing for a future where the system might not survive, and quietly. Japan chose option 2. Everything changed when the world started asking a dangerous question. What is the US dollar actually backed by gold? No, not since 1971. Oil, not officially, though the petrodollar helps, so what's left? Trust. Trust that the US government will always pay its debts. Trust that the global financial system won't collapse. Trust that the dollar will always be the center of the world. But what happens when trust starts to fade? Inflation hits. Interest rates spike. Credit ratings get downgraded. Countries start trading in other currencies. And suddenly, holding trillions in US bonds doesn't look like a safe investment anymore. Japan starts to sell. Not dramatically, not enough to crash the market, but enough to send a message. We're not waiting around to find out what happens next. Let me be clear. Japan selling US Treasuries does not mean America collapses tomorrow. This isn't an end-of-the-world prophecy. But here's where it gets terrifying. Japan isn't alone. China selling Saudi Arabia, reducing exposure. Russia already exited entirely. India diversifying. Brazil and BRICS nations trading in other currencies. We are watching in real time the slow-motion exit of foreign support for US debt. Think of it like this. If the US is a skyscraper built on debt, Japan has been one of the main support beams. If that beam starts to slide out, even slowly, the building begins to shift. Stress increases. Small cracks appear. Other beams notice and loosen. At some point, the structure doesn't collapse, but it stops feeling safe. And once something stops feeling safe in finance, panic can spread faster than any virus. Here's where it gets worse. The US can't simply force Japan to keep buying bonds. It can't bully a friend. And the usual fixes don't work. Lower interest rates. Japan still needs cash at home. Raise interest rates. that risks breaking US banks and mortgages. Print more money, inflation explodes, cut spending, political suicide. So what options are left? None that don't hurt. This is why Japan's move is so dangerous. Not because it collapses the dollar, but because it exposes the truth. The US economy is now addicted to foreign money, and the suppliers are walking away. This moment has historical echoes. Rome relied on foreign mercenaries to maintain its empire. When loyalty faded, Rome fell from the inside. Britain relied on colonial revenue flows. When the colonies sought independence, the empire shrank. Every dominant power in history believed the same lie, that their system would last forever, and every time the warning signs were ignored. Japan's selling isn't just financial. It's symbolic, it's psychological, it's historic. We are heading toward one of two futures. Path 1. Reinvention. The US restructures, debt cuts, spending, rebuilds manufacturing, strengthens the dollar. Difficult, painful, but possible. Path 2. Slow decline, debt spirals, foreign investment dries up, the dollar loses status, inflation becomes permanent. Global power balance shifts east, not sudden, not dramatic. Just a slow slide decade by decade into a world where the US is simply one power among many, and Japan's move may be the first step on that path. Conclusion 3. Takeaways. Takeaway hash. 1. Japan isn't betraying the US, it's protecting itself from a storm it sees coming. Takeaway number 2. The dollar's global dominance is no longer guaranteed. It now depends on choices, not destiny. Takeaway number 3. This moment is not the end, but it may be the beginning of the end of the financial world we grew up with. If the world is shifting, then pretending nothing is happening may be the most dangerous choice of all. You don't have to panic, but you do need to pay attention. If you found value in this breakdown, and you want to understand where this all leads, from the dollar, to BRICS, to the future of global power, subscribe, like the video, and share it with someone who still thinks nothing is changing, because history isn't waiting for anyone. End.